All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Seriously Caffeinated. My name is John, and I have with me my Sirius AI mug. Unfortunately, I'm getting a lot of criticism for this. I gave up coffee for my New Year's resolution, so I am on black tea right now. And I have joining me the one, the only master of Hollywood design in cars, technology, and all those really cool things. You've probably seen a lot of his work. I'll let him talk more about that. We have Fireball Tim Lawrence. Fireball Tim, what are you drinking today?
Well, I'm not drinking anything at the moment because you told me to have my coffee ready, but I drank it too fast. So I'm already done. So I'm jolted, ready to go, and looking forward to it.
Very cool. So you are seriously caffeinated, which we love. So, well, very cool. So yeah, it's an honor to have you on Fireball. I just want to tell some people about how we know each other. So Jen Messina, who is one of our creators and producers, had introduced me to Fireball a few years ago, and we've hung out with him in Southern California. And one time he convinced Jen to buy a giant wardrobe, which she did not have a plan to do with anything. So I ended up having to take care of it. But Fireball Tim has a really huge resume of really awesome stuff that he's done in Hollywood since the 1980s. Is that right?
Yeah, early 80s.
Yeah, so if you ever, I think I've read that you've done stuff with Avengers and Men in Black, and I think you designed some of the Batmobiles, is that correct?
One of them, yeah.
Gotcha. So if you are if you're a gearhead film buff, I think this is your podcast. So yeah, Fireball, thanks so much for joining today. I wanted to talk with you a lot about artificial intelligence. Now, AI is becoming a very prominent thing. It's been a prominent thing for a bit, and I come to find that AI, it's a really handy tool, and I've used it occasionally to help me write things. However, in the world of art, we seem to be seeing a huge pushback, and people say, art should be specifically humanity. It's a very human thing. AI should not, anything made by AI is not true art. But then you venture into the business world, and people are losing their jobs left and right because AI is just so much more efficient at doing the mundane tasks that people don't want to do it. So I guess my first question for you today is, as someone who works in your specific field, how do you feel towards the idea of artificial intelligence being more and more incorporated into the artistic and storytelling process?
Well, actually, in order to actually answer that, I think that we want to have a broader scope about this, about what AI is doing and how it's incorporated into our lives, and potentially, forgive me, I have a dog in the other room that might howl every now and then. So,
is he caffeinated? Is he caffeinated?
Yes, yeah, it seems to be like all the time. The difficulty with AI is that it's hard for people to deal with change, and especially artists hone their craft. I've been an artist since I've been an artist my whole life, but I've been in the film industry since about 1981, and I've seen a lot of change in that time. But it reminds me of back in the turn of the last century. I don't know if you've ever heard of a scrivener. You ever heard of a scrivener?
I have not.
Okay, so a scrivener was a person that was hired back in the 1890s, something like that, before the printing press was invented, and they would hand do contracts between two people. Mm-hmm. So they'd get this big piece of parchment paper, they'd use calligraphy and a variety of things, and they would hand write the entire contract. If they made a mistake, they had to start all over again. But it was a piece of parchment paper, and it was hand done. Mm-hmm. And then the printing press showed up in the Chicago World's Fair, 1893, and their job was done. They didn't want to, nobody could, forgive me, I have another thing that goes off every now and then.
No problem.
No one hired scriveners anymore. And the scriveners were pissed because they got replaced, and rightly so. When you're faced with the idea of something being replaced, or your job being replaced, then that could be difficult. But the real challenge here is an individual challenge. It's not a global challenge. It's an individual challenge in the sense that AI is whatever you choose it to be. If you choose it to be evil, then it's evil. If you choose it to be productive, then it can be productive. The goal is to try to find an equilibrium. Is that how could I, instead of coming from the attitude of AI is bad and it's not real art, and it's a lot of the things that people say, and I understand why they say it, because they believe that art as a creative process is an inspiration. It's something that comes from within. It's something that you're given through inspiration, whether it's God or whatever it is that you want to call it. And then our job as human beings is to express that in art form in some way. And that art can be hand-done art, it can be performance art, it can be building, it can be a lot of different things. And AI was also created. It was also a creative process. And whether it becomes a sedentary being, I don't know if I said this right, but the idea that it's going to take over is only real to those that believe that, right? And what's important is that whatever you believe is true for you. And I've just always been a person that will look at, I'm sure there was people that were pissed off when pens came out because pencils were the thing.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted a pen, right? Who wants a pencil that you can't erase with, right? So there's always going to be people that are upset with change. And the problem with that is that when you're upset or you're angry or you're irritated, then that's what you're giving into the world. And that irritation gets infused into your art, and you have to be very careful because your art has to be pure. It has to be something that comes from a positive source because you're giving it to the world. If you're fortunate, and I've been very fortunate to be able to do my art and be able to be paid for it and have a career for the last 50 plus years in doing this and working in film and everything else, I've had to put myself in a position to accept and to analyze change. And instead of saying, this is bad, I don't want this is terrible, the question for me is that how can I and do I want to incorporate this into my world?
Yeah.
Right? If you have a fear that you're going to be replaced, I guarantee you're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go into it and say, how can I leverage this new tool to make what I do better? AI is really for the non-creatives. It's for people, and it makes sense. Look, from the standpoint, let's say, I'm a producer. I want to do a movie. I don't have any money, but I want to conceptualize. I want to sell my idea. I want to make a movie, but I don't have the money to hire an artist, to do some of these things. So, and before AI, I had to suffer. I couldn't create this.
Yeah.
I had to draw myself, and it looked like stick figures. It looked like crap, and I couldn't hire someone, a professional, to make it look good because guys like me are expensive, and rightly so because we do a lot of stuff. But now there's a tool for everyone who wants to develop a logo, wants to develop a movie, wants to do something that if they had the money, they still can. Yeah. So the creative process is no longer stifled. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're a concept artist like me, there are things that we can lose at. We can lose at not getting hired because someone wants to use AI. That's certainly a potential.
Yeah.
Whether that upsets me or not is my choice. I don't have to look at that thing as a negative. I can look at that thing as, well, this is a way to propel me forward. How do I get better? So the quality of your life is determined on the questions that you ask yourself, the momentum. And if you concentrate on the negative, you'll get the negative. You concentrate on the positive, you'll get the positive. And it's very important as an artist, as a creative person, as someone who is through creative inspiration is giving a gift to the world through your art, that you look at it from the highest vantage point. Because if you don't, then you're doing a disservice for your customers or for your fans or for the people that want to receive your art. And there's been cases, when it comes to my art, I use AI every now and then for backgrounds and things like that. But I've made a promise to myself that my cars that I illustrate will never be AI. There's nothing that could ever change that. because that's a decision that I make, is that I want that that human mistake involved in that illustration.
Yeah.
I want that work to look like a human did it, and it's not perfect. I love my work, and I enjoy that process. Why would I gyp myself of that process? But if I can incorporate AI in other aspects, then I benefit. And if it's bad just because people say it's bad doesn't mean it's bad, right? So we all have an individual perception. The goal, and forgive me, I don't mean to go off too long on this point, but this kind of sets the stage for it, is that the art's not important. Our perception of the art is what's important. Our ability to look at something and decide whether it's good or bad. And that leads me back to my favorite quote from Shakespeare, which is, life is not good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And I would just rather choose to either look at something that could be bad and not give my attention to it. And there's many people, protesting violently and doing a lot of things in the world right now when they could be creating art. They could be doing wonderful things, but instead they're choosing to fill their lives with a lot of hate, and a lot of anger, and a lot of, of these things. And you have to be very careful, because I'm already 60. I was 14 like 3 days ago. And I'm not kidding.
Yeah, I mean, you don't look a day older than 19, in my opinion, but.
Yeah, I feel really good. So what's important is our perception. Is if our perception is that AI is destructive, it becomes destructive for us personally.
Yeah.
If we look at it like, wow, that's interesting. That's an interesting tool. How can I incorporate this new tool into what I do to make what I do better? And then my vibration is higher, and it'll never take me over.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done. And I'm a living proof of someone that does art as a creative process and doesn't allow AI to ruin it for me. In fact, it's the opposite. It allows my work to be better, to be more global, to be better in scope, to do things that I couldn't do before, to challenge me. There's a lot of good in it. So it just depends on your perception.
I will, yeah, I mean, well, first off, I'll respond by saying that every single time I have a conversation with you, there's always a theme about mental resolve being one of the most important things. You have always, every single time we have a conversation, it's always, if you believe you can do something, you can do it, you can make it happen, but you just got to do it. And I've always appreciated that optimism that you always bring. Sure. So I heard that quite a lot in what you were saying is, that is ultimately what it is that if you give away your power as an artist, then you no longer have that power. It's all about how you choose to craft and mold the world around you that makes us artists. And to be able to use artificial intelligence to help, bring that to life, I think that's a very healthy way of looking at it. Have you ever, you had mentioned, there, being a concept artist and then also having, because you can use AI to help you with the concept art. Have you been running into an issue where, potential clients have been, starting to use AI instead of your services? And has that been something that concerns you at all?
No, it's exactly the opposite. I mean, I literally was approached a couple weeks ago from a company that it's an animation company here in LA, does huge projects, have huge clients. I can't say who, but very high level. And they're an AI specific animation company. Mm-hmm. They only do AI. And their idea is to develop projects for budgets that are just ridiculous, the things that are prompt based that they can do. I saw one of their trailers, and before they told me it was AI, I would tell you it was I can't wait for this movie to come out. Mm-hmm. It looked that good because they understand that story is king. Mm-hmm. And in Hollywood, story is king, but story is king everywhere. I go to a lot of car shows, and I don't go and just walk around, look at cars. I want to hear people. You and I talking right now is about story, and AI is there to support that, to help people to tell their stories in a variety of ways. And it's important to understand that human beings by nature are artists. Every one of us is an artist. You just may make a salad or a business proposal, but you're in the creative process. And lawyers are artists. Everybody is a creative being. Our job is to find our purpose, is to find which direction we want to share that thing with. And some people, they're creative at making money. Some people are creative at cooking. There's all kinds of those processes. But you have to recognize that you can control three things in your life. You can control the how you think, you can control what you say, you can control what you do. Above that, you can't control anything. Yep. So when AI comes in and there's this new tool that is epic in scope, and it's not going away, it's here to stay.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to grow.
Yep.
You can be worried that your job as a chef is going to be taken over by a robot, and that kind of stuff is going to happen.
Yep.
But it doesn't mean it has to happen to you. If you're a chef at a restaurant and you're afraid that a robot's going to come in because your boss is talking about that, then you need to find out a way to open up your own restaurant and do it your way, right? We're always challenged with these things. We're always challenged with people saying we can or can't do things. And our job is to believe in ourselves, believe in what we're capable of, find our purpose, and to implement that purpose for the world. And those that are not happy in life are people that are not fulfilling that purpose. And if we're fortunate enough to get to do that, our job is to inspire others to do that. And AI is just another tool. It's just a tool to be able to help us get better and explore and be creative. So now, this animation company, they want to develop projects. They want to develop projects that would normally cost $200 million for me to do a concept art for this kind of thing. And now we're doing projects that are $20,000. They're nothing.
Yeah.
Right? But we're telling stories, and we're telling stories for a platform because so many platforms exist now, from YouTube to, across the board to Netflix and Tubi and everything else, is that you can develop these ideas in a way that you could never develop them before, and have them look just as good as an Avengers movie.
Yeah, and there's a lot of talking about. Well, I guess we've talked a lot about the the actual, like, what is happening now. I want to throw a philosophical question at you. So something AI generated, would you consider that, because, one of the things that you had mentioned is that we as humans are the artists, and without us as the artists, it isn't art. It isn't something that, we have to be the ones that create it. If I put in a prompt in ChatGPT and say, make me a picture of this, would you consider that art or a reference?
Well, I would say that there's no AI that is creating art on its own. Mm-hmm. It's not like the AI is over in, I'm in Ventura, California, over in up in Santa Paula, AI is just generating art, just like, all by itself. Yeah. It's just creating art and paintings and everything else. You're like, oh my God, it won't stop. It's like, that's not how it works, right? But I guarantee you that somewhere, someone's writing a book called The Art of the Prompt.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Right? Okay, so the creative process is no longer a long dissertation of expletives and explanation and all this stuff. The creativity that the human being has is, sorry, doggies.
No worries.
Is the ability to, in short form, like a tweet, like on X, or like anywhere where it's required as a short form, is that our ability to communicate precisely in short form is an art form. And I look at a piece of AI art that somebody prompted, and they said it in such a way that created this piece. Yep. And if that piece is beautiful, if that piece is interesting, or if it sucks, it comes down to the prompt. The prompt is what created it, not AI.
Yeah.
It's like hiring an artist.
Yeah.
It's like I'm a producer and I hire an artist and I say, I want the background to be green. I want there a bunch of trees over here. I want this and I want that. Go to it. And then they do a painting. And I'm like, that's not what I want.
Yeah.
And what the hell's that? That's that thing, Or they come up with a piece like, oh man, that's killer. That's amazing. Here's your $10,000 and thanks for doing that piece. Now you don't have to pay for that for guys that can't afford to hire an artist to do a piece. They can now do it and they can tell their story. And that's a niche that didn't exist before. And that's AI. Is that AI is allowing people that could not tell their story a way now to tell their story.
Yeah.
And I look at the prompt as the art, as the expression in short form from a human being that's telling AI what they want. And it's a great tool to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Versus not being able to do that at all.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like you kind of touched on this already. I feel like you've touched a lot on this, but with humans' relationship to AI and what it's capable of, it definitely sounds like humans are still in the driver's seat. That we're the ones calling the shots. There hasn't been an AI takeover like Terminator. The any of those sci-fi like apocalypses happening yet. Fingers crossed. But specifically humanity, like we did talk about you were saying like humans, part of what we need to do in this age is to learn how to evolve, like you were talking about the chef. I personally went to a restaurant probably last month and I had my first robot waiter, and it was interesting. I'm sure might be a lot more of that in Southern California.
Let me say one thing about that, and I think this is important. Sure. Because as you move forward through life, there's only two perspectives. There's a perspective of fear and there's a perspective of fearlessness. And in order to move forward and to evolve as human beings, we have to be fearless. We have to face things that are difficult. Yeah. And fear controls us and stops us. And most people have a fear of a Terminator future with AI because we've been conditioned with movies and everything else. You don't go to a movie and it's all, happy roses and unicorns. It's the standard story is the hero's journey. And the hero's journey is about us facing things that are impossible to face and overcoming them. And there may be a time where AI takes over and does a lot of things, but I don't believe that it's a Terminator future. It's going to blow us all up. And if it does, oh, well, yeah, right? What are you going to do? We're all toast and c'est la vie.
Yeah, although I'm in Austin, Texas, which is a pretty big tech capital in the United States right now. So we have Waymos all over the place, and it was only a matter of time before we had the robot waiter. But you had mentioned earlier how, like, with the chef, it's very important for humans to also evolve with the times. Instead of just giving up and being pessimistic, like, oh, I lost my job because I'm not a chef at the restaurant anymore because the robot took over. It is their job as the chef to think, what can I do to, like, take the next step up? I feel like that's definitely what you were implying with, human evolution of the mind. And but I think my big question is, what elements and what aspects of humanity should we prioritize safeguarding and celebrating and, saying, that should never be replaced? Is there any human qualities that come to mind or anything?
Well, the idea that robots could love is something you experience in a movie, right? So, I don't know if it's really about safeguarding, because that's a perspective of fear. Somehow you're trying to protect something that's going to be taken away. And I don't come at things that way. I look at expansion. I look at opportunities. I look at change as being a good thing. I don't fear change. I don't have any fear when it comes to our future. I'm very excited about that. And I think that I was very fortunate my mentor was a gentleman named Sid Mead, who was an incredible painter. and concept artist in the early days. And he would always paint a very positive future. You know, a very, most people, while people were painting dystopian Mad Max futures where everything was blowing up and blood spatter everywhere, he was painting these incredible futures that you could only dream of being in, and very Star Trekian, but without all the aliens trying to kill you.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's important that you're honest with yourself as you look, and this is not something towards AI. This is something towards every aspect of your life. Is that what we fear expands, and creates more situations. This is why it's what people that protest violently don't understand, is that they think they're making a stand, and they're whatever motivates them. But what they don't understand is that the vibration that they're giving is going to come back on them very harshly and very difficult. And as you get older, you realize the truth of that. And it's all through the Bible and everything else. And I'm not a religious person, but I always like talking about The Walking Dead, because it's to us in 21st century, The Walking Dead is a TV show about zombies, where they're going around killing you. But the metaphor in the Bible sense is, and forgive me, I'm not trying to talk from a religious standpoint.
No, that's totally fine.
The Walking Dead are people that exist in present day, that are victimized and blaming others for why things are not going the way that they want them to go, because blame is very easy. It's much easier to blame than to take responsibility for yourself and to make a change, because that requires effort. It's difficult. It's difficult for us to evolve and to grow when we're faced with roadblocks. But The Walking Dead represents people that don't want to change, and they're not aware that everything that they need in order to change is within them. And the idea of being born again, according to the Bible, is waking up out of that. So every day I try to wake up twice. I wake up in the morning when I get out of bed, and then I try to wake up a second time by becoming aware that I'm in the driver's seat, that my day is going to go the way I decide it's going to go, and that I'm not married to conditions in any way. Is that I don't have to look at my finances or look at my relationships and say, that sucks. I can say, that is what it is. It has no meaning until I assign it meaning. And I look at AI and I assign consciously that AI is an interesting tool to which I can work out and try to prosper with, because I want a prosperous future. I want a future where I'm not only making money doing what I love, but affecting people in a positive way. And that's the game.
Yeah. You definitely, I mean, everything you've talked about so far, you sound very confident in humanity's role, and I feel like you know exactly where you stand. You know exactly where AI stands, and as I think it can be best summed up as you just said, which is AI is the newest tool. There is, do you ever, so we've definitely talked about, you've used AI as generative, drawings, art references, things like that. Have you ever had a conversation with a chat bot or anything like that?
Yeah, I have. And, it's interesting, people will say that, there's going to be a time, right now, performance art, dance, and all that stuff is done by humans. There's going to be a time where you go to a dance show and it's all robots, right? Because someone's got to do that. Yeah. And it's going to be interesting. But the idea that robots are going to take over dance overall is nonsense, right? And if you're afraid of those things, then you're putting yourself in a box. Yeah. And it's very important as we move forward and as we evolve that we understand not just choosing what we're thinking, but making a conscious choice, understanding that whatever we think will expand. And if we think love and we think kindness, those are things that AI doesn't do, at least not to this day. But they're not just going to wake up and just want to destroy us. They're going to emulate us. They're going to want to understand love. They're going to want to understand kindness. They're going to want to understand all these things. And they're also going to, when it comes to Asimov's 3 laws of robotics, it's important that there are people that want a positive future. Not everybody
Yep.
wants to destroy and tear things down.
Yep.
But that act of that is fear-based. Is
Yeah.
that the reason people are violent, the reason people are afraid of AI, and I just said it, is, it's fear-based.
Yeah.
And in order for you to be your most efficient as an artist, to be your best self, is you have to find a way to remove yourself out of fear and put yourself in a prosperous and dynamic position so that you can create and be your best artist. I'm not sure if I'm answering the question, but I think that it's very hard for people to look at something and not react.
Yeah.
Versus look at something and say, what do I want this to mean to me?
Mm-hmm. Do you
versus saying that sucks or that's good,
yeah,
right? Because of what they see with their eyes.
If and so coming at it from that positive, optimistic perspective, if you ever had an AI model tell you that it wants to be treated like a human, like, do you think that AI as a tool, like, do you think that we're ever gonna hit a point where it deserves human treatment? Like we live alongside it and we have to respect it. And I don't want to get too far into like dangerous territory. But
I guess that notion really comes from the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it deserves, like, do we deserve it? Do you deserve to be loved?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, it's
okay. I mean, well, if you deserve to be loved, then why? I'm not saying you, but let's say
sure.
An average person that wants to be loved but doesn't have someone in their life. They deserve it. They want it.
Yeah.
Right. The problem with a lot of this is that the notion of want is a message to the universe saying, I don't have.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we want things, the more it's kept from us. What we really want is desire. We desire things. If you look in the dictionary and look up the definition of want and then look up the definition of desire, they're drastically different, right? So if you're not being loved and you want to be loved, what you're really saying is, I desire to have someone in my life that I can convey love to and to us. But as far as AI ever getting to the point where they are requesting, who am I to deny anything that would want love? That's like someone coming up to me that's a paraplegic or they're super ugly, or they're just whatever their perception is of themselves. And they say, I want love. Am I going to say, well, no, you're never going to get that because this, right? Is that you want that for them. You want animals to experience that. You want all to experience that. And if I'm alive long enough for AI to say to me, I really want to be loved, then why wouldn't I want to support that? Yeah.
And the reason I asked that question was because, humanity has had a long history of, treating some groups with humanity and treating some groups without. Going back to, the very beginning of time, it was all tribalism. The Roman Empire, if you weren't Roman, you were subhuman. The United States has had a lot of history with that. And I'm sure that especially as we start... I will talk to AI sometimes, and sometimes it'll cut me off or not answer my question, and I can get very upset at it, even though it doesn't register that I'm getting upset at it, because it's not jiving with that. But as it gets more, I think of it kind of like animal rights. There's a whole lot of people that say, oh, we shouldn't eat meat because that's infringing on animal rights, and that's it's not a topic that we don't talk about anymore. But I think we, at least in the United States, have come to the conclusion that if you are a Homo sapien, you are a human being, you deserve human treatment. But animals are not quite there yet. There's people fighting for it, but we don't have like a blanket idea in our country with our laws saying animals need to have that.
Let me address one thing, and that is that in general, people don't change because you make them wrong. They change because they're inspired to change. Right? If you're someone who believes in animal rights and that animals shouldn't be eaten, then your job, if you're trying to do that through making other people wrong for it, they're never going to change, right? Because no one wants to be wrong. They want to do what they want to do, but you can inspire change. There's great companies like Beyond that are making plant-based foods and things like that. There's positive things that you can do to create change and create awareness. But it's like, if you don't like what's going on in the government, let's go destroy things, right? That's not the way to change government, right? If you want to get into government and change it, based on yourself, then you can do that, right? So, and once again, we're talking about things that are fear-based, is that people fear, that they want, like when you have kids, they want to know what's next.
Yeah.
Is my singing lesson next? Am I taking trumpet next? Am I going to soccer practice? They just want to feel secure and safe, right? And we still want that. We want to know what's next. Is that, can I pay my bills? Can I get a job? Am I going to see my girlfriend? We just kind of want to know what's next. And when you get a wrench into the works and things go south, then the fear comes up, and we react as opposed to being proactive.
Yeah.
And until the day where AI gets so intelligent that it's doing things on its own, there are a billion things that AI could do, and only one of those things is destroy us. Yet we're infatuated with that, so we make movies about that. I mean, every single movie that comes out, I think last year, had a gun in it in some sort, right? We're fascinated with death because we don't understand it, what it means. But I just believe that of all the other things that AI could do, there's a higher probability that it will help us to expand and to do things that we can't currently do. Go to space, go to the bottom of the ocean on a regular basis, become more than we are. There's just so many things that AI could help us do. If it's going to destroy us, you're never going to know.
Yeah.
It's going to come and that's it, right? Why just constantly worry and have anxiety and have fear about that when you could choose to do something better for the world?
Yeah. Well, this is a really it's a very relevant question to, and bringing this all back to Sirius AI, a post-apocalyptic musical. This is all questions that we're trying to answer. One of the things that we've been finding is that with the increase of AI usage, and it doesn't sound like you have this problem at all. Like, it sounds like you are very human-centric. You have all the optimism for the future that, any human could possibly want, which is a very good thing. We're and speaking as a teacher who works with kids, I'm not teaching right now, but I have worked with kids for a long time. Not understanding what separates them from AI is becoming more and more prominent with them. And so one of the things that we're trying to do with Sirius AI is we're trying to have this conversation about what makes us human. It originally it started off as, an AI-centric, adventure, but as AI started becoming more prevalent in daily discussion, we decided to pivot so that this isn't just a robot adventure. This is about exploring, what can AI do? What can humanity do that AI cannot do? Essentially, we're plopped into this post-apocalyptic future where two AIs have been given the assignment to reteach humans how to make art. And there's this question about what are some things that they just cannot do. And we have our two characters. We have Sirius right here. He is a super optimistic robot. He is convinced that he is a human. It was kind of a Pinocchio Geppetto kind of origin story, and his papa had told him, you are human. You are going to teach other humans how to regain their humanity. And then you have this AI right here. Her name is Hope, which stands for Hostile Operative Protection Entity. And she is much more of a realist. She knows that she is, and there's a derogatory term that we use. It's called a clanker. Although surprisingly enough, that word has actually been starting to be used online in like TikTok and stuff. Like kids are actually starting to refer to AIs as clankers. It's interesting to see those kind of things happening. But Hope is much more pessimistic. She is exactly opposite of what you've been talking about. You know, you and Sirius would get along. It's let's talk about the future. Let's talk about ways that we that can collaborate and make the future beautiful. And she would say, you know, what's the point? We're not really human. Like even humans are barely human sometimes. So with all that with all that context, you know, one of our big goals is to have this conversation with the next generation, telling them specifically what as humans that we can be doing and also our relationship with AI. So if you were to talk to a kid, and I think this is going to be our last question for today, is you have a kid who is saying, you know, I don't know, like I want to say Uncle Fireball or something. I don't know. Let's just run with it. Uncle Fireball, what makes me human and what makes me different from AI? What would you say to that kid?
Well, I mean, I guess, you know, my mom instilled that in me is you get busy doing you and everything else will fall into place. That's really it. Yeah, it's just that thought is energy. Mm-hmm. And we have a certain amount of it every day. And why would I waste it on worrying about things that are probably not ever going to happen? And if they do, you know, we're never going to see it show up. You know, I would rather, you know, she just said, you know, focus on your creative inspiration, your creative process. Don't listen to anybody else tell you that you can or you can't or anything else. Just get busy doing you, and the universe will step in and help. And it's been serving me for 60 years, and I've gotten to do 400 films. I have a whole slew of projects. All these Post-it notes all over the walls are all separate projects, and those things I get to do because I'm not wasting my time worrying about the things that you know, might not happen or will happen. It's like if something falls apart, just move on. Go on to the next one. Who cares?
Passion driven. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Passion driven. Don't worry about the things. Just do the things that you care about, and that is where humanity shines, and that you can never take it away.
Yeah, and the world is waiting for it. There are people that want what you have. Mm-hmm. And if you're wasting time doing other things, then you're not giving it to them. Mm-hmm. And this is your purpose. Your purpose is to be creative and to give it to the world, period.
Yeah. Well, I think that kid would definitely feel inspired from that. Well, fantastic. So we're coming up on our end time, but Fireball, it was a pleasure to have you on. I think that we're going to have a lot of things for people to contemplate and to think about. And it's definitely a breath of fresh air because, like, I would say out of everyone I've talked to so far, you're the one that has had the most optimism for humanity is going to prevail no matter what, because, you know, there's nothing else for humanity to do but prevail as long as you keep moving forward.
We always have, and we're blessed to be here, you know, and the chances of you and I being here in this life is pretty small. But if we're here, then you have to be grateful and do what you can to make a stamp, you know. So
for sure,
keep going.
For sure. Well, right. I will definitely be in Southern California. We'll convince Jen to buy another giant piece of furniture. But ladies and gentlemen, this is Fireball. So if you want to check out some of his work, I'll put his resume and his website in our link in the description so that you can go check him out. Although I'd be very surprised if you haven't seen some of his work before. So thank you very much, Fireball, for coming on. And I hope you have an awesome rest of your time avoiding the cold weather in Southern California.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.